Good afternoon and welcome to the Fitchburg Historical Commission's meeting on July 27th, 2024. Excuse me, June 27th, 2024. Skipped a month there. We only have three members present. My name is Keith Jeannot and I'm the chair of the commission. We also have Don Ostrowski, a member, and Andy Lepasti, a member of the commission and secretary. We're going to go ahead and have an informational meeting. We will be, since we do not have a full quorum, we will not be taking any official votes on or taking any official action. So with that said, I'd like to welcome everybody here. And we have two guests that we'll talk about very quickly here in the future. So let me let me just share the screen. And this is our agenda for today. We have a public comment period. Followed by review of minutes that we will not be reviewing today because we don't have a quorum. And item number 3 is discussion of the current Massachusetts seal and flag. Seeing that we don't have any other guests or other public comment period, we're skipping number 1 and number 2, the review of minutes.
No, he does. I'm a guest. Susan Navarre.
And excuse me, Susan Navarre, Executive Director from the Historical Commission, is also a guest present here. So welcome to everybody. And so moving forward, item 3, discussion of the current Massachusetts seal and flag. Our guest, Jacqueline Weejay and David Detmold. If you would like to make a presentation, I do have access to a web page that I believe maybe David has posted, and I can present that on screen if you like or not.
Sure.
What was that?
He said, yeah, sure.
Oh, okay. Why don't you introduce yourselves and what your presentation, and let me see if I can bring that up.
I'm Jacqueline Weshi. I've lived in Fitchburg for 27 years now. And a few years ago, we had some controversies around flags that were flown in the park. So I started reading up about flags, and I learned that there's very problematic imagery on our state flag of a sword over the head of a Native American. And to create this image, a Native skeleton was dug up, and lots of things. We have a handout that lists them. Native leaders have been complaining about this flag for 50 years and trying to get it changed. I was pleased that our Parks Department agreed not to fly it, but we are compelled by law to fly it in certain city buildings and also to teach about this flag in the schools. So we believe it is due for a change. And the state set up a commission to study the flag. After numerous delays, in part due to COVID, they finally ended their commission by saying, yes, we agree the flag should be changed, but they didn't select a new flag design. So we're trying to get a resolution passed by the Fitchburg City Council in favor of updating the flag. We did go before the Human Rights Commission, and they're going to be, I believe, voting on this at their next meeting. They seem very receptive to changing it. And we're hoping we can get your support as well. And I'm pleased to see Susan Navarre here because I did speak to Councilor Green. And she told me that you had gone to a historical association meeting where the flag was discussed.
Yes, that's, yeah, in the keynote talk, they talked about a number of issues of Indigenous people's history in Massachusetts, so it was part of that. Yeah, and I looked up in preparation for this meeting, I looked it up online to see where things were at, and I did see that the Senate had passed something to change it, and then they're going to choose between three things, and that's gone to the government. And so I wanted to find out about whether there's been any movement on that at the state level, whether that's sort of where the state is and whether there's a role for Fitchburg.
Yeah, I'll let you.
Sure. So thank you very much for allowing us a few minutes to talk about this at your scheduled meeting. I'm sorry there's not a quorum here today, but I don't think we were expecting any action on this today. So maybe just informally, we could have a bit of a question and answer. My name's David Detmold. I drove out from Montague about an hour away when Jackie invited me at your kind allowance to have us here today. So my role has been to coordinate this website that you see here on the screen now for the last 8 or 9 years now, changethemassflag.com. And mostly this website has been a source of information for volunteers who have been working in now more than 90 cities and towns to discuss this issue and to bring it forward for town meeting vote or city council vote. Of the 90 cities and towns that have discussed this and taken formal votes, we've won 82 of those votes and only lost 8 in the, let's see, the first one was in 2018. So we're talking now about 6 years that this has been sort of a grassroots organizing effort to both educate the general public and also, I think very importantly, to keep a little bit of a spotlight on this in front of the state legislature. Because, as Jackie mentioned, it's been decades that Native leaders of what we now call Massachusetts, this region, have been protesting the state's use of Native American imagery, certainly, on the state seal, but more particularly, a sword placed above the head of a caricature of an indigenous person, and a Latin motto that relates to that sword that is commonly translated, "She seeks a quiet peace under the sword, but peace with liberty." The heart of that motto, I think, is the phrase "peace under the sword." It's a sort of a chilling image, really, certainly for the 92,000 indigenous people who still call the Commonwealth home today, not to mention the many, many indigenous scholars that come to colleges and universities here. And that's a fraction of the number of people who claim Native heritage in their bloodlines, their family lines. So really, this is an image that affects a large group of our increasingly diverse population in the Commonwealth. You could certainly look at the Puerto Rican community here in Fitchburg and say, that's an indigenous community too, the Taino bloodlines there. When you see a sword over the head of an indigenous person, a sword held by a white hand, you really begin to feel that there is grounds for complaint about this. And the legislature for 40 years now has had this issue in front of them. It was first introduced by an African-American legislator from Boston named Byron Rushing, who refused to wear this symbol on his lapel and refused to use it as part of his official stationery for the 17 consecutive sessions that he raised this issue, trying to set up a special commission to investigate the elements of the flag and seal and to recommend changes to it. And he collaborated with a medicine man whose name was Slow Turtle, John Slow Turtle Peters from the Mashpee Wampanoag, who at that time, 1985, was the chair of the recently established Mass Commission on Indian Affairs, which was set up under the Dukakis administration. So Slow Turtle and Byron Rushing introduced a bill in 1985. And for 17 consecutive sessions, that bill to set up a special commission about changing the flag and seal was studied or delayed or landed in committee and never got out of committee. That's a very long time to be studying this issue. And so it seemed to me, having heard about it, and I was the editor of a small town newspaper that I established in Montague, and looked into this because that's a long story, but I looked into it because we had a Native American mascot in our high school, which was named after a person who came to our area on May 19th, 1676, and led a large dawn attack, massacre on a refugee community of indigenous people who had escaped the general warfare of King Philip's War in the coastal regions in the central part of the state, and come out to where I live and thought they would be safe. And so this gentleman named Captain William Kerner came out from Boston, leading a small militia, and led a massacre. They named the high school after him, and they named the sports team the Indians, which seemed kind of an egregious insult to me. And so I editorialized about that. One of the first years that the paper was running, lost a number of subscribers. But I'll say that in the middle of one of those emotional hearings in front of the school committee about whether to change the high school mascot, someone stood up and said, if we have to change our high school mascot because it's offensive, shouldn't the state have to change their mascot? And by this, he was referring to the state flag, which we then unfurled. It's always on the corner of the stage of the high school, every elementary school, every town hall, but you hardly ever look at it. And when I finally looked at it, I said to myself, the man's got a very good point. This is a terrible image, my opinion, and we should change it. And I've been working on that ever since. And that's how I came to be involved in it. My state legislator at the time said to me, if I could get him the relevant history on this, he might be inclined to support Byron Rushing's bill, which came up, as I said, year after year. Steve Kulik was his name, and he rose to be the majority whip of the Democrats. And I took his advice and went down to the state archives in Boston, and I went to the special collections room at the State House, and I dug up everything that was in print about where this image came from. And if you're here in the room, you can see that in 1629, on the top corner here, this is the original image. And not that great of a distance between what the Puritans brought over in 1629 and what we're looking at today. Basically, the central figure is an indigenous man standing upright with one downward pointed arrow as a symbol of peace, or a symbol, I would say, of a pacified Native American. But certainly this native figure today, or back in 1629, is not armed with a quiver of arrows ready to do battle. There is no quiver of arrows. There's just this one downward pointed arrow. And even the Secretary of State's website will say this is a symbol of peace, or a peaceful Native person. In the original there, you can see this speech bubble coming out of the caricature's mouth saying, "Come over and help us." So that is the origin of what we are now looking at today. Of course, this was the year before the Puritans sailed over to what is now Boston Harbor, what was then called Shawmut Bay. And no Native person would have ever worn a loincloth of leaves, such as is depicted here. This is considered extremely offensive by every indigenous person I've ever talked to who's looked at this. And the same sentiment applies to its direct descendant here, the image that we are now, teaching in third grade classrooms as part of the core curriculum year after year, of a native figure now no longer with a speech bubble coming out of his mouth, but this phrase that essentially signifies peace under the sword, and a sword held above the native figure's head. This sword, the final iteration of this, it's changed. Artistic renditions of this have been many over the years, and it hasn't always been the central seal and symbol of the Commonwealth. There was a period of 5 years during the Revolutionary War when Revolutionary Governor John Hancock commissioned Paul Revere, actually, to create a symbol for the revolutionary colony of Massachusetts that was seeking to become free of no longer a colony, but one of the first 13 states. So Paul Revere came up with a symbol, which I don't have in front of me, of Minuteman holding the Magna Carta in one hand and a sword in the other. Very Eurocentric imagery, appropriate for the struggle, the revolutionary struggle, because of course the Magna Carta was the first time that the proposal that there should be no taxation without representation was ever written down. And this was largely why the revolutionary struggle occurred. But in 1780, Governor Hancock, feeling secure that the revolutionary struggle was successful in Massachusetts, decided that this temporary seal should be looked at by one of his close confidants, one of his governor's council, what we might now call a legislator, but in those days was called a member of the governor's council. And his name was Nathaniel Cushing. And he came from a town that is now on the South Shore that I'm forgetting the name of, but that neither here nor there. He was an expert in European heraldry and armaments, and he, for whatever reason, decided to revert back to what the Puritans had originally chosen for their seal of the Massachusetts Bay Colony. So in 1780, we once again had a native figure, and this time with a sword over his head. So again, there were artistic renderings of this that changed wildly over the next century, but finally, the Secretary of State, William Olin, in the 1890s, felt like this needed to be fixed by statute and no longer subject to artistic variation. Sometimes the bow would be held in the left hand, sometimes in the right. He wanted it to be, this is the way it's going to be. And this is the way it has been since 1898, the way we are looking at it now. And he, in particular, asked the illustrator that he commissioned to do the rendering of this imagery, a man named Edmund Garrett, who wrote about his work on creating our current state seal. And if anybody wants to check the veracity of the sources, he himself is the best person to go to because he's the illustrator who created this. And he published an account of it, quite a lengthy account, in a general circulation magazine called the New England Quarterly in 1900. I can't remember the volume number. I think it was volume 23, but you can find it on the internet. And I can send you that reference later after I go home. But Garrett was told by the Secretary of State at the time, William Olin, to use the sword that is held in the Pilgrims Hall in Plymouth, that is believed to be the broadsword carried by the military commander of the Pilgrims, Miles Standish. And so this sword, this particular sword that was used as a model, is well known by Native people today and in their whole oral history. Remember that Miles Standish, 2 years after, the Pilgrims were here in the first winter of starvation, signed a peace treaty, so to speak, with the native leader of the Wampanoags we call Massasoit, Massasoit being a general term for great chieftain. His name was really Usamiquin. But only 2 years after that, Miles Standish called a meeting of Massachusetts leaders, war leaders, you might say warriors, leaders anyway, and called a meeting with them in a place called Wessagussa, which is now, I think, Weymouth, and ambushed them and killed them and cut off at least one of their heads and put it on a stake in Plymouth as a sign to Native people in the area of how the Pilgrims were prepared to relate to them if they gave them any trouble. And this head of this Massachusetts leader was allowed to sit on this stake and rot for 20 years. So Massachusetts people who are still very much here, we've named the state after them, we've taken all their land, and yet their tribal people are still here, and they carry this memory of this particular sword. And I'll just very briefly say that some of the other elements, in addition to this sword, are also extremely offensive. One being that the illustrator chose to use a photographic image for the facial features of a Chippewa chief who was based at the time in Montana, and had no relationship to Massachusetts. But Edmund Garrick considered him, quote unquote, a fine specimen of an Indian. And so we're looking at the facial features of an Ojibwe chief who has no relationship to Massachusetts. We're looking and teaching our children about this symbol in school at a bow that was carried and, by a native person who was shot and killed by a settler in the town that is now called Wayland in 1665. History records the name of the settler who shot and killed him, William Goodnow. They named a library after him. But nobody remembers the name of the native person whose bow we are looking at. This is lost to history. As Jacqueline mentioned, they used a skeleton of a native person to make sure they had the bodily proportions right, as if native people had different bodily proportions than your average human being. And they used the belt that they believe is the belt of King Philip. King Philip, who died in battle in Rhode Island in 1676, and whose head was also cut off and left to rot on a stake in Plymouth. We talk about savagery. So the placement of all these various images together into our state's symbol is almost designed to offend Native people. But really anybody who takes an objective look at it can see that this is a symbol of violence in one way or another. And when we have brought this before town meetings, and we have not, unlike what the New York Times said when we won this vote in Cambridge in 2019, gone to liberal bastions. We have gone to towns throughout the Commonwealth, whether they are largely Republican, largely Democrat, and we have won, as I said, 82 out of those 90 votes, because when people look at this, they recognize this as a symbol of past violence between one race and another, and not something necessarily that Massachusetts should be eternally proud of, the military conquest of the Native people. As a historian in the town of North Brookfield, where we lost the vote so narrowly that the moderator had to call for a standing count. And this historian said there is so much in the history of Massachusetts to be proud of, but the military conquest of the Native people is not one of them. In any case, we're in the midst of a historic review, statewide review. And for the first time in 140 years, the state is looking carefully at this and has, as Jacqueline and others here have mentioned, set up a special commission, which through the period of COVID and funding not being there when they needed it, and the former governor not making the appointments in a timely fashion. They took a lot of criticism from the statewide media for not finalizing a decision about what a new flag and seal could look like. But they did come to a unanimous decision in May of 2022 that this symbol was causing harm today to the residents of the Commonwealth, and that it needs to be entirely revised and replaced. And they issued a lengthy final report in November of last year, basically saying this image is easily interpreted as a celebration of the history of settler violence against Indigenous people. And I'm so sorry, I forget your name, but you mentioned that the Senate has not, pardon me, tell me.
Susan.
Susan, the state Senate in May of just last month did pass an amendment to the state budget that would complete the work of the recent special commission by asking the governor to appoint a 10-member advisory committee with 2 Indigenous people serving on it to put out a general call to elementary school students, college art students, graphic artists, professional lithographers, anyone in the state who has an idea for what a new symbol, a new flag could look like, could send in that proposed design, and that this advisory committee would choose the top 3. This is how Minnesota just changed their flag about 2 months ago. Minnesota, which used to have a symbol with a Native American riding off into the sunset with a settler coming along with a plow to plow the land. That was Minnesota's until they went through a process just like this and came up with a beautiful new symbol with their seal has a loon on it, which has sacred significance to the Indigenous people there. And the flag is much more graphically appealing. Mississippi also just changed their flag in 2020. So it used to be the last state flying the Confederate stars and bars, and that was no longer supportable after the murder of George Floyd. So states are conducting these historic reviews to see if the symbols that they're teaching their children in grade school and upholding to the world and to the country at large fit with the modern sensibilities of their states, and especially in the light of the whole racial reckoning, that racial justice reckoning that we have been called to in recent years, and our new governor's very plain statements that if there are barriers of structural racism in the Commonwealth, as she said in her inaugural address, they can and will be removed. So this is a historic moment. It's been 140 years that we've been looking at this, and now we're being asked to consider changing it. The Senate passed an amendment that would set that in motion, and yet that amendment has not been approved by the House. And so it's the subject of a budget conference committee right now. We hope it moves forward. And we hope that it has a 12-month timeline if it does reach the governor's desk, that we would narrow it down to 3 finalists from a general statewide call for art and hold public hearings across the state, at least 3 public hearings, to choose and select a final one and hire an illustrator to design it. And yet still that would have to come back to the legislature. And finally, it's the legislature that will have the last say on this. And therefore, I think it is still very, very relevant and very important for every level of government, historic commissions, human rights commissions, and particularly the Fitchburg City Council, to take this up, to look at it, and to issue a non-binding resolution, which we hope Fitchburg will do in the next weeks, the weeks ahead, to join with all these other cities and towns like Ashby and Lunenburg that have already voted favorably on this, and to tell your state legislators this is important. We believe that this should be changed. So I'll stop there. I'm sorry I went on so long, but if I could answer any questions here or to the chair, wherever he may be. Thank you so much for letting us talk.
Good. Well, thank you, David and Jacqueline, for your presentation. Members, Susan, any questions for our guests?
Well, I have a question. Why such a resistance to changing? I mean, it's patently obvious.
Did you say where's the resistance?
Why, yeah, why, okay. Let's start with the towns that turned it down.
Okay.
What was their argument against?
Such as Winchendon quite
Yes.
recently voted it down by just 3 votes out of 100. Very close. So I was glad we had the conversation. I wish we'd won the vote. What we frequently hear is you're trying, quote unquote, to change our history and how, and Massachusetts, you know, and you would know as well as any, this committee would know as well as any, treasures its historical precedents in the whole founding of the nation and the Liberty Trail and all of that. So to ask Massachusetts to make a change to something that in one form or another has been the symbol of the colony and then the state for almost 400 years, 392 years, that's kind of a major undertaking. And there has just been a lot of inertia. As I mentioned, Byron Rushing brought this up in 1985, an African-American legislator. When you look at the legislature today, it is still predominantly white. And when you look at the Senate vote just a few weeks ago, a month ago, it was not unanimous. It was 30-9. And all the women in the Senate voted to change it. All the people of color in the Senate voted to change it. And the only, among the minority, the 9 who voted no, were all white men. Could that be a coincidence? Or could there be just a sense of, not comfort, but there's just a sense that white supremacy, this is a symbol of white supremacy, has to be called what it is, and you have to actually tell people this is unacceptable, even if you're comfortable with it and you've lived with this for a very long time. It's not acceptable. Go ahead, Jen.
One reason I think it would be great if Fitchburg were to pass a resolution in support of changing the flag is that one of the people who voted to keep the old flag was our state senator Cronin. And I think if he hears from constituents that we would like the flag changed, that might sway his opinion.
Senator Cronin was one of the 9, and I'm sorry about that. And I tried to speak to him the other day at the Juneteenth event, but he got away before I could talk to him. I don't know what his reasons are. Some people may say this is going to cost the state some money. That money could be better spent on diversity or education programs. For example, we've heard that argument. But how much money does it really cost the state? And is that really a good excuse for not changing this? They print new stationery for the bureaucracy every year. That's not an extra cost to change the symbol. When flags wear out, you know, they print new flags. Well, nobody's suggesting that we're going to change the symbol in the State House Rotunda in the stained glass, where it's huge, or the bridge abutments all around the state in brass that are embedded there. This is going to be part of the story of the history of the Commonwealth. But as signs, when you drive into Fitchburg, it says, "Welcome to Fitchburg," and there's a sword over an Indian's head right in the middle of that sign. Every highway sign, as those wear out, you know, you can replace them. So I don't think the cost factor is a bit of a red herring. I think people really are saying, you know, you're trying to change our history. That we hear that over and over again. When you look at that phrase, they're saying, I'm comfortable with this. This doesn't bother me. This sword is not over my head. But, you know, Native people, their children go to our schools too. These schools, this school system
How
here.
do they feel if the store was over there?
I'm a little hard of hearing.
How would they feel if the sword was over their head?
Yeah. I've seen that brought up by native people, like, how about if the war had gone the other way? And there was a white person in the middle of our flag with a tomahawk over his head. How would you and your children feel studying this in school year after year? It's not that this is not an accurate, in many ways, symbol of our history. It's just that at what point can you take the sword down and say, we can be friends now? We've all lived together, for better or worse, for 400 years. And going forward, we could have a symbol of harmony. And I think that's what we're looking for. That's what we're.
Well, I think it misrepresents the sources, remember, the evidence.
Okay.
It takes part of the evidence and prioritizes it over the other evidence, because there were plenty of examples of cooperation and working together. But for a certain group to take part of the history and say, this is the history.
Yeah.
I, as a historian, find that offensive.
I think that, you know, in the 1890s, I'm thinking of what you were saying, that this, you don't take down those others because they are a historic document that shows us the differences between the past and the present. And if we look at how they attempted to recreate, you know, to create a new symbol in the 1890s, they were, you know, they were doing within the context of the time. They thought they were really being scientific and up to date, and you know,
You're right.
by going and looking at specific artifacts rather than having a leaf skirt and things like that. But at the same time, when you look at it closely, you can see how much of the history and the colonialist and white supremacist history is just built into the language of all of these symbols. I was really struck by looking at the early Pilgrim one, where I noticed where he's saying, come and help us. And he is not saying that in Latin. And from what I've learned in medieval art history, is that you have different levels of language used by different people. So the one that I remember most clearly from a medieval art history class is that you'd have everything written in Latin, and then they'd have pictures of say, a peasant on the side, and they would speak in the vulgar language, that is the local. And the funniest thing was that there was one that was done in England, and it was in Latin, but there was a duck. And the duck was speaking Anglo-Saxon. He was in Quebec. And so it's just, and so it's even built into this one, along with the inappropriate imagery that came from it being done so early. But also that they would have that the condescension and the levels of superiority and inferiority built in, so that it seems that in the 1890s they were trying to be, you know, to create something newer, and it was at the time of the colonial revival. So it was sort of saying, well, we are rethinking, we are looking in a modern manner at the colonial period, but I think they would be very comfortable with the idea of throwing out a 100-year-old thing and trying to take all, you know, the knowledge that comes from the historians and research and listening to the indigenous populations into account. I think that they believed in progress in the 1890s. I think we can believe in progress too.
Thank you. And what is really historic about the special commission, which the statewide media really panned it and didn't say, well, they missed their first deadline because the governor didn't even make the appointments by the time the deadline had come and gone. they missed their second deadline because they had no money. It's kind of hard to hire a lithographer on credit. You know, they had no funding. When they got their funding in 2022, their deadline was not extended, so they had to go back in 2023 and beg the legislature for money and time to spend it. And they decided to do a public survey, which I think is wise, rather than just choose a symbol without talking to the public first. So they did all that. They accomplished a lot, but what people who I talk to among the Native community are particularly keen about with this special commission is that for the first time in nearly 400 years, Native people, leaders of the Native community, I'm talking about the chairman of the Wampanoag in Mashpee, the chairwoman of the Wampanoag in Aquinnah, the Nipmuc close by had a representative, Brittany Wally. They were invited to sit at the table for the first time, consult. 6 of their leaders, out of a 19-member commission, Republican, Democrat, the Secretary of State was present with 2 appointees, and there were artists and there were leaders of tourism in that special commission. And for the first time, Native people were at that table. And they led that consensus saying, this is harmful. I mean, they had to really persuade the military historian from the Massachusetts National Guard, who was part of that commission, that even though this was born in battle by successive generations of Massachusetts regiments, you know, that times can change and that this is a harmful image today, just the way the Confederate battle flag had to be changed in Mississippi. So when you say in the 1890s, you know, they thought they were being modern by looking at it scientifically, here we are for the very first time, asking Native people their opinion about their own images that have been used in this way. And they're telling us, and if we ignore them now and just let that recommendation sit on a shelf for another 40 years or hundreds of years, and we continue to fly this flag, then we have no excuse really to say that, well, we thought this was an honor to the Native people. I do hear that occasionally at town meetings from the people who want to vote this down. I'll just say one more thing, is that when you read that very interesting account by Edmund Garrett in the New England Magazine, which I encourage you to do, he calls Native people in 1900 in a general circulation magazine poor savages. He consulted with 3 white anthropologists from the universities in Boston about what their clothing should look like, what an ideal Native figure should be. Never did they consult with Native people. This was never meant to be an honor to the poor savages after whom the Commonwealth was named. So I think it's really important that we've asked them and they've answered us, and we need to listen to them finally, having asked them for the first time what their opinion is.
Yeah, that was a common, one finds that as a common word used at the time for the people who were already here. And then it's kind of ironic to adopt their words, like for the state, with the names of different towns and streets. And
even the mountains and rivers, yeah.
Yes.
Indian name.
Wachusett, right? And well, if they're savages, why are you adopting their words?
Oh, if I could mention too, for those who are saying, well, you know, that want to pull out history above all being such an important value, actually, specifically locally, Fitchburg has a history of interest in learning more about Native Americans and actually empowering them. Some of my favorite people that I've discovered. So Mary Lowe Dickinson was a writer from Fitchburg, and she was one of the national leaders to try to get citizenship for Native Americans. And so she was praised in the US Senate as they did do that. And I know that Native Americans have mixed feelings about citizenship in the United States, but it was still, again, this is the late 1800s, that she's thinking this is the biggest benefit that can be given is to go from being a non-citizen to becoming an American citizen with all the rights of a citizen. And then I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but the man who came up with the National Boy Scout curriculum, I guess I'll call it, on Native Americans. Again, working in the 1940s, so I'm sure it's very dated now. But the curriculum that was adopted through all of the Boy Scouts for learning more about Indigenous culture was a man from Fitchburg, a Boy Scout leader from Fitchburg. So there is a lot of, and there are other, I have recently discovered there are other academics working on research in Native American populations here. But I've been very struck by how people were trying to understand more within the limits of their time.
And I think that would be one of the greatest benefits of changing this symbol is that suddenly you could enter into a far more respectful relationship with people who have a lot to tell us and a lot to teach us about the land that we're living on today. I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
No, I interrupted you. I interrupted you interrupting me. Or vice versa. Yeah, thinking more about this, the whole history of the Europeans coming in and what they did to the indigenous population. Because I can see it ties in with the whole notion of our history, because if you change the seal, then that opens the door to re-looking at the history of the Europeans with the indigenous people.
Yep.
And it is not pretty. It is not pretty. And I can see why they want to keep that suppressed, because it reflects badly, very bad on the Europeans.
I go to a lot of these meetings when the vote finally takes place, and the one I often tell the story is when the Amesbury City Council from the Merrimack Valley voted unanimously last spring to change in favor of changing the flag and seal. The chairman listened to all the comments, Quakers were there, and let everybody speak. And then just before the vote, he said, "No, I want to say a word." He said, my great-great-grandfather, however many greats, was in Lancaster during the King Philip's War, so-called, and was killed, And he wound up saying, and still I want to apologize for what our ancestors did to your people, Like, even though that was part of his own family history, he recognized what you said and looked at the history in that light and said, look, we need to unanimously say we want to reject this history of violence. So that was kind of a beautiful statement. I mean, I know there's a story here in Fitchburg, which I haven't really researched, maybe you all have, about the name of the city and what happened to John Fitch. Is that his name?
Yeah.
Right. And, sometimes people say, he was held captive and got away. Other people, I don't know. That story, it's often if people are being wiped out in battle, sometimes they will take people as what we call captives, but they're adopting them into their family to replace lost members. So it's kind of interesting when because this happened with, what is the name? Anyway, this happens over and over again. Mary Rowlandson here on Mount Wachusett, and in Methuen, there was a woman who got away after killing the family that had taken her and her children captive. They put a statue in the middle of the city towards her with a tomahawk. She used to kill the people who had taken her captive. You know, from our point of view, it's like, wow, she survived a terrible ordeal and got home with most of her family still alive, you know, and she lost a child.
So were there any statues to the Europeans who
Yeah,
went over to the Indians?
not necessarily statues, but there's some amazing written accounts right across the country. Because common practice is like, we've lost 90% of our tribe to smallpox, you know, and you've now chased us out of our homelands and taken, you know, taken our lands, and we're gonna come in the night and take one of your children to replace the children we have lost, and then we're gonna raise them as part of our own. These kind of stories, you look at them from a native perspective, it's quite different when you look at them from a white perspective. I haven't really done the research. People have been telling me about John Fitch, but you know better than I what that story is.
I haven't done it either. Actually, we have a local historian who has told me that, or who said in a few different contexts that it's, you know, that it's a bunch of hooey, basically, that was made up by the Goodrich, the historian,
Okay.
William Emerson, I think it was, when he was writing it.
Interesting.
I've been thinking about it because at this History Alliance conference that you were mentioning earlier, the speaker there, and she was saying, you know, re-examine all of your history. What is, you know, what has been left out, and so I've been thinking about that, and I really think from what that historian has said, my operating assumption is that it was just a convenient and frequently spoken historical trope. It was a way to say why they had named it after him, not that this particular historian locally said he was pretty certain that they named it the town after John Fitch because they thought he was going to become the wealthiest and most influential man in town.
I
So
see.
they went,
Okay.
so that this is Todd Gillen, I think, has said that.
Mhm.
So I don't know, I haven't researched it, but
Then I won't bring it up. again.
basically there are those, yeah, but it's really apparently, you know, some who have researched more than I have said that it's probably just
Okay,
exciting writing to start to, you know, get the story going with a bang.
Did Deerfield pass a resolution?
Deerfield, yeah, despite their history, they passed it overwhelmingly. It's very interesting. Brookfield, the town of Brookfield seal is Native Americans setting a cabin on fire. Part of the story there, part of the story there, but they passed by a large majority. Anyway, thank you for giving us so much of your time.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for bringing this to our attention.
And I don't know what help you could be to Jacqueline and others. You know, we've gotten 60 or 70 signatures from the fire chief to the police chief to the head of the airport director, right? You know, everybody's been signing it saying, we want the city council to act on this. And we're hoping the Human Rights Commission at their next meeting, which I think is the second Tuesday in July, will send, or we've heard that they're thinking about sending a resolution of their own to the city council saying, please act on this. And if the historical commission,
Commission.
There's the
We're the
Historical Society.
society, we're an independent nonprofit.
all right. But if you wind up with a quorum at your next meeting, and would like copies of the resolution language in case the historical committee would like to join that effort to persuade the city council this is a worthy thing to vote favorably on. You know, we're right in the middle of a very crucial juncture here. And it's quite possible that this could wind up on the governor's desk in July, towards the end of July. And if Fitchburg were to take a vote, the city council were to take a vote in July, it could make news and should make news. So I'll leave you with that thought.
Yeah, I think the historical commission members who aren't here could view the recording
Yep.
and your presentation, and at the next meeting.
Yep.
Or maybe even before, we'll be, Keith, no better. we can make some kind of determination and make a recommendation to the city council.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for
the presentation.
I learned a lot.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for enlightening us.
Yeah.
We'll stay in touch, and if you have any questions, if there's anything we can do. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Would you like some?
Andy.
I've I brought a couple of different ones. I think, this just. I gave him a different one, so I guess, oh, there it is. Okay, thank you. Thank you. I'd like to stay for, I think, for some of the other discussion, if I may.
That would be great. That'd be great. But one thought is, since we don't have a quorum present, and if they're trying to do some special action by mid-July or whatever, and our next meeting is the end of July, you know, it's possible we could call another meeting earlier than our next meeting. We certainly have the right to do that, and trying to ensure that we would have a quorum. And if we had, just a thought, if we wanted to perhaps coordinate with the Human Rights Commission in what the wording of a resolution might be, or jointly go with them, it's possible that one of us could make contact with the commission, with the Human Rights Commission. Jacqueline, do you know who might be the person there that I could contact the chair? I'm not sure who it is, but
The chair is Barbara Nealon, and you might also try Miles Wilcox, who's the mayor's deputy chief of staff. He is also on the Human Rights Commission.
okay. All right. Any other thoughts from commission members of, is this something we would like to pursue, and would it would you be willing to perhaps meet in earlier July, specifically to coordinate a resolution and perhaps coordinate with the Human Rights Commission in their presentation to City Council? Do you know when it's coming before the legislature, Jacqueline? Do you know when it's coming before the legislature?
No, we have not secured a city council sponsor yet. We were hoping that once they see the, hopefully Human Rights Commission is behind it, then at that point, someone will step up to sponsor it.
Okay, and do you know when the state legislature is going to be addressing this? Or
That I don't know either. I do know that they are not meeting their deadline for the state budget, so the governor has put in an interim budget, and this is part of the budget. So I guess whenever the budget is decided is when we'll know.
Next month,
Next month,
sometime next month.
July,
Yeah.
which is pretty soon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
very soon. Okay, and a holiday week there too, so. All right. Why don't, if I am out of state for the next couple of weeks, I don't know if this is something that somebody wants to do in person with contacting Miles or Barbara Nealon. Or I'd certainly make phone and email contact with them, and I can get back to everybody by email of maybe having a copy of their resolution, and if we wanted to pair up with that, or develop a second resolution that's our own and have two different resolutions with similar oomph that goes before city council. City council meets probably twice next month.
Yes,
Good.
and then they are off for the month of August.
Okay, so that's we have deadline to go on, and hopefully early in July would be better. Why don't if anybody wants to make your own contact with members of the Human Rights Commission and Miles, if you're in discussion with them, I'll make a formal contact with them also, and we can coordinate with what we find out and see if we can make an idea of perhaps jointly working with them, and perhaps having maybe adding some support or clout to the presentation to City Council. It seems, yeah, I was curious and hoping that Jacqueline and David could give us some idea of what the politics is and what's the best way of making some action on the state side, and kind of all of the above. And I suppose contacting our state legislator, and it has gone through Senate, I guess, and interesting about our senator that perhaps voted against us in the Senate, but it would be nice to probably show backing of the city, and perhaps seeing if there's a reason and perhaps a change that could be made, and in his mind anyhow. So, other comments on this?
I'd be in favor of holding a meeting in early July or mid-July in order for us to vote to approve this resolution to change the flag.
Okay.
So we can try to get a quorum together to vote.
Okay. Kind of a consensus. This is not an official thing, but let's kind of work toward that as some quicker action that we can do, and work on that. Okay. Moving along, I see it is 4:15, and if we can continue on the agenda and have some discussion. Let me share screen again here, see if I can find our agenda. Okay. So item number 4 is downtown historic areas brochure distribution. I believe Andy was able to get some additional copies, and I see that people are perhaps folding in the meantime.
Holding.
Yeah.
Yes. And this is something that we've kind of acted on in the past, and kind of discussion now is making sure that we have it out to points where this paper document can be seen by more, and perhaps influence people's understanding of the history of our city in this area of the state. And I made a kind of a quick list of places that probably do not have it yet, several copies of this, and that would be the public library. I think maybe the Chamber of Commerce. It would be good to have it there, and perhaps delivering a substantial number to these various spots, and being able to, I think, with the chamber, maybe even meeting with the president of the chamber or the executive director of the chamber, just kind of explaining the importance, and maybe even one of the chamber meetings, one of our members could perhaps just make a quick presentation to the chamber members gathered there, and just
left. How within the society.
Okay.
I was thinking of checking with the art museum too.
Yes, I think that's good. The art museum, the Johnny Appleseed Center, which is, I believe, out on Route 2. They might have a information brochure stand for area events. I think City Hall lobby. I know our community and development has a stack of them.
That's the same thing.
The mayor's office does, and I don't know if there is a empty brochure pocket that we could put them in. But perhaps talking with the city clerk's office across the hall, seeing if there's somewhere that we could put them, and perhaps making sure that they're being restocked if people do pick them up. The Cultural Alliance across the street, they should probably have some and be aware of it. The Art Museum, like Andy mentioned, I don't know if there's a spot at the train station or if that's a little bit too public of an area. But commuters waiting and something to take a look at as you're moving back and forth between east and west. Any other thoughts of where we might get some
I took some to a talk that I did for the faculty I was part of a faculty meeting at Fitchburg State. And so we gave them out, and then the people there took the ones that remained and said that they would have them there for people, but just FYI. And we've given out a number of them at the Historical Society. I was hoping to take a few more today because we usually have hundreds of visitors at the July 3rd Civic Days block party, and only some pick things up, but they get excited. But I think that we will give away as many as we have, or almost as many as we have on Wednesday.
Yeah, I would suspect we still have like 1,000 upstairs in the community development office. So feel free to, if you need more, they're up in Liz's office. They can just kind of stack there. And Kim LeBlanc is certainly helping us, or knows where they are, and can help you get your hands on those. Or I think that's where you got them today, Andy. Is that correct?
That's right.
Okay.
Good. No, I think there's still a good many more, and I'm sure we could get reprinting on these whenever we need them too. So let's not be hoarding them, and let's get them out. After years and years of design work on this, but let's move them out. And and it's something that if we see we want changes in it in the future, we can certainly change the design some and come up with a newer version as time goes by, and that would be great also. Any other locations anybody can think of?
Oh, I thought of one place. There's a new youth center in Clegon that just opened up at the run by Newview, I think. So on Clegon Square, the old Clegon Community Center. So it just would be the other side of town, but you'd get a lot of it's youth and get kids to have it, and maybe those that are intrigued about these things. That's when you start exploring. When you're a teenager.
Yeah, you say that's in Cleghorn?
Yeah, right
Okay.
at the square, like right.
Okay.
Fairmont Street and.
Yeah, two places that one might not think would be distribution points, but actually they are flying off the shelf. Pauper's Pantry
Oh, yeah,
and Rising Ground. And
fabulous.
And they have a place where they have the Pulse
Right.
magazine, and I put the brochures right next to them, and in a few days they're gone.
Yeah.
I don't think they're throwing them away. I think people are actually taking.
It's a good read at the coffee shop.
You have a question, Jackson?
Well, sometimes when I am at hotels, they'll have like racks of pamphlets about attractions in the area. I don't know if Great Wolf Lodge has something like that.
That's a good point.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm not sure if they will support it. I know some local Airbnbs are always looking for info like this.
Mhm.
Um,
Is there a tourism council that, through the chamber or something that we could, hospitality?
Yeah.
Okay, do we have, these are good spots. Since I'm not physically present, could one of you perhaps organize and make sure we're getting these distributed to the Art Museum and the library and Johnny Appleseed and the chamber and kind of these areas that we're talking about? Is that something we could have a volunteer distributor from our
I was
group?
thinking about the art museum for that.
What was that?
Perhaps the library. I was thinking of going to the art museum since we have a contact there.
Okay, good. Thank you. Andy, you can do that?
Yeah.
Terrific.
Suppose I would just email the group that I've left some here or there, kind of thing. Right, they're gonna work.
Okay, good. How about City Hall lobby? Can someone take care of that?
I just put some,
it is-
I restocked their,
It's already done.
Already done.
All right, all right, all right.
no sooner said than done.
Okay. What are we missing?
Library. I can go to the library.
Okay,
We go there.
sure. I'll try the Route 2 Center.
Okay.
That one, this-
Perfect. Little road trip.
Yep, right.
Terrific. And as you go to these various places, if you can talk with like Deb Hinkle at the library or whatever, just to let them know that we're doing this and to let them know your contact information if they run out and they need more, or we can try to make an effort to check back periodically to see if the brochure rack is empty or not, but leave them enough that they can restock it themselves, if possible. Okay, good. Anything else on the distribution brochure? All right. Item number 5 on our agenda is review the proposed addition of resource links to the commission's website. I'd sent out an email and I thought this would be something on our website that some people know is there in the city. And let me see if I can bring up a copy of what those things were. Let's see. Still trying. Is the resources showing on the screen there in the lobby?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I'm still seeing the agenda. Sorry about that. Okay. So I'd sent an email out with this, and basically I can go ahead and add these as kind of shown here, or if there are any suggestions of changes or additions or deletions you'd like to see on this. I just thought since we are one spot where people that might have interest in the history or historic resources, if someone has an older building or looking for information about the history of various sites or buildings in our community. So one thing is that we could add a hyperlink for our brochure that we just published. They would be in a PDF format. Second is guidelines for preserving, rehabilitating and restoring historic buildings. And this is a link to the preservation briefs. So people click on this, and this is a lot of information on all different types of building components and parts, and what are the kind of more tried and true ways of preserving these particular things, from repointing brick and lead paint removal to all types of things in restoration. A lot of good guidance there. Consultants and firms who specialize in preservation related fields in Massachusetts. This is Preservation Massachusetts directory that lists all types of consultants and contractors, et cetera, that are specialized in historic restoration, et cetera. Massachusetts Historic Resources Inventory, finding if there are buildings that have been surveyed within a particular community. And obviously we're interested in Fitchburg. This is a link to the maps at Massachusetts Historical Commission, the macris.net database that has thousands of entries. And there are over 900 inventory entries of individual properties or areas in Fitchburg. And it's such a wealth of information that was started back in probably mid-1970s onward, is continually being added to and updated. A link to people that like a listserv, a kind of a blog about people interested in historic preservation in Massachusetts, and shows up in your email. I've been on this list for a long time. There's always lots of very interesting information on it and dialogue going back and forth, particularly among historical commissions all over the state and specialists, et cetera, that are interested in just ordinary citizens also. Next, a link to the Fitchburg Historical Society. I just took a little piece, Susan, of your off your webpage, to preserve, protect, and interpret the history of Fitchburg.
Fabulous, yeah.
We can certainly add more things to any of these if people are interested, but just taking you to the website, the Fitchburg Public Library, also an archive of Fitchburg's history. I know Fitchburg State has some archive of Fitchburg's history also. I don't know if we want to add that to here or not. I haven't done that so far.
If we can somehow put a note, I know that Asher Jackson, that's the archivist there, is planning on having a whole bunch of that information on Macra, or excuse me, not on Macris, on Ometka. And so that's like the display, website where you see all sorts of, essentially sort of like a little exhibition of things. It would be a wonderful public resource. So I don't know if they've got it all set up yet, but it's in their current budget, and they're turning it on basically. So within the next 6 months, it'll probably be ready to roll.
What's the name of it again?
Well, it's through the archives, and it's Ometka, Ometka. A lot of people use it for an inexpensive or free, and the university is able to use it too for apparently a very good way of both storing archival information and sharing it on the internet. So.
Good. Maybe I'll
I was gonna say, I'm sure you'll want audience once they've got it rolling, you know?
Very good. If you can, I'll try to contact Asher, but if you know that it's up and if you could let one of us know, that would be great. Community development planning has their guidelines and assistance for development and so forth also. So I've listed their general website here. Any other additions to this or thoughts of the? I don't think it'll hurt to have it on our website. Maybe someone will see something here too, so.
Right.
I think that's wonderful. It's an amazing resource list for the people that want this, that are working on preservation, whether for a home, a business, history. It's an amazing list.
Good, good. All right. I will try to get that to our website person at City Hall here, and we'll get that hopefully activated soon. All right. Going back to share screen. Agenda.
Oh, yes. Good.
Great. No, striking out here. What's the next item on the agenda? Anybody can read it there?
Rail trail signage.
Okay. All right. Rail trail signage. Let me see if I can bring that up. Let's see here. Thank you for your patience. Let's see. Thank you, Zoom, for making it easy for me. Does anybody see a locomotive on your screen?
Huh?
I see some people out on the rail trail once in a while.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
I don't know if it's had its like official opening or.
Well, the first phase they did, I don't know if they did a special. They had it officially open, but I don't remember if there was a special event. Maybe,
Okay.
I don't know if I do it. I know I didn't go to it if they did. Yeah, I just think these are great.
Yeah.
I spotted something, didn't I? Some proofreading thing.
Okay.
It was the question of the location of the library. Did you have any? It's a real challenge, yeah.
Yeah, number 8 circle.
And anything else, when I researched it, it was correct and I was wrong.
No, I think both Susan and Andy found that number number 8 was misplaced. And the graphics person probably looked up the address of the library today, which is at back in the old GE building now temporarily. So then maybe that's why they put it there. Is everybody seeing the image of the first sign?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. And I'm one comment or a couple comments that I have. The MART MBTA Intermodal Center is a cloudy day, and there might be a more maybe upbeat type of image that we might get for this. This is something I could, Charles helped out with the Riverfront Park image, that the image through the bridge here, and for the Abolitions Park. I might give Charles a call to see if we can come up with a more striking image of the train station entry area. And any suggestions of a different view of that any of you have? It would be nice if it was at least had some blue sky in the image or something instead of looking in kind of.
I have a detailed photo that I took. I'll just send it to you. So it definitely has blue sky, but it doesn't really show it's just the little sunshine shape that's at the gable of a roof. I liked it, so I'll send it to you. I'll send it around to everybody to see if
Okay, that's
maybe
good.
you think it would be intriguing for people.
Yeah, I think it might help a little bit also that maybe if there were just like a single line that kind of connects the image to the number, like Crocker Field, if it had like a blue line that went from the center of the picture up to the little dot, and it might be instead of, where's the number, where is this and stuff, just to kind of find it a little bit easier. And they might have to push the images around a little bit, but it just might make it a little bit easier as you're, instead of taking the extra moment to try to find what's the right number for this. They are color coded, but it's still, at least for me, it took a little time to kind of put them together.
Oh, I didn't notice the color coding. So what is the meaning of the color coding? Let's see. Does it have a specific meaning or?
There's only so many colors, so the colors repeat themselves a little bit.
Yeah.
But there's green, red, and
Arcs in green.
I'm wondering if the green spaces are in green. It sort of looks like they are. Yeah.
Oranges.
Orange might be institutions and. No, because that's
City Hall,
institution.
train station,
no.
I can't see which
Warren
ones they
Square.
are. Warren Square,
and the college,
the
university.
Yeah, I don't know. Oh, is it area, neighbor? Well, no.
I think they were just trying to pull the numbers and the spots together.
Oh, okay.
I think, and maybe just having some sort of an arrow or just a line connecting the
Yeah,
picture box with the dot. They could still leave the numbers or just get rid of the numbers then too. So, and the title,
right.
okay. So that's image number 1. Any other comments? So number 1, library.
Yeah, I think like using urban. I think the subtitle one, business, culture, and residential living is excellent. The other, I'm not sure, yeah, I don't remember. Yeah.
Okay. Um, the sorry, my daughter's dog is with us, and they just drove back in the car. So, intruder incoming. All right, number two is that first one was located at the kind of last little sit-down rest stop just at the train station area, and kind of welcome to the trailhead, if you will. This next
Right.
one is, as you can kind of see on the old railroad map here that's in the center, and the you are here, is very close to Main Street, goes kind of vertically on the right-hand side. You can see where the rail trail continues on with the orange dash. And just about where my cursor is where the number 1 sign is going to be. So this is right over the river, or just past the ramp that's coming down after it went over the railroad. The rail trail crosses over the railroad tracks quite high up in the air. It's starting to come down, it crosses the river, and kind of here when you start getting a view of downtown, which shows that the half roundhouse area. This is just about where the grocery store is, and the plaza area here. And this kind of shows the great age of trains, which is kind of a late 19th century, and kind of showing the importance of the train and industry, and kind of the beginning of, or Fitchburg. So travel and commerce, the railroad reached Fitchburg in 1845 and rapidly expanded industry, et cetera. Showing a Fitchburg locomotive. The caption on this is Fitchburg Railroad 28 Belmont. I believe this is the engine number. 28 is on the cab. And it said Fitchburg built in 1866. Were actual engines built in Fitchburg? Do you know, Susan?
Definitely railroad cars were, yeah.
Okay.
I'm not, I can double check with somebody who's more knowledgeable than me. I would check with Frank Morrison to make sure that actual engines, pretty sure they were, but I'll make certain.
Okay, this graphic, it was on the original draft of the signage that was done by their graphic designer. I'm not sure where they got their research from, so
Right.
just to double check on that.
Okay.
And the second part of it shows industry, Fitchburg Paper Mill number 4, a Fitchburg Steam Engine Company, showing one of their steam engines, a picture of the quarry looking down over the city, and a stone retaining wall that kind of shows, and it's not a very good image of the stone retaining wall or things that were built from the quarry. There might be better images for this image here. This is High Street, kind of back behind the Fitchburg Stable building, behind B.F. Brown, from a couple years ago.
So I really liked that because of that picture, because of how it showed you something that you'd be able to spot today. That you go and see the retaining wall. It's true, it's hard. It might be hard to see it or see its appeal for the average person. But I loved having it right next to the quarry so that you're showing how you've got evidence of it. If you think it's too hard for people to spot, does something like a picture of First Parish Church where the columns are monoliths that are, monolith granite, granite quarried at the, quarry, but then that would require something that, explains that too. I don't know, I liked this because I thought that because I think the retaining walls are such an important part of Fitchburg, but if you think that the image isn't right, I don't know if you think that would be a better image.
How about a picture of the workers building a granite retaining wall? I think I
Ooh,
can recall seeing one of those in our collection.
actually the wall, not
Yeah. Oh, different, not this one, different
But
spot.
it would be black and white,
It was black
right?
and white.
But a beautiful black and white from the glass negatives.
Yeah, there's some over on, what is it, Kimball or that,
This one was in Clayton somewhere, the photo.
yeah, if there's, Andy, if there's something that you can find, or Susan, if you can find that it would show a little bit more detail in these big heavy blocks being put up. And just making sure that it is granite from our own quarry there. That would be certainly a kind of a closer up thing, and something that lots of people drive by and would recognize it, say, oh my God, that three-decker sitting up on top of that 30-foot high retaining wall. And it
Right.
steps built into it and everything. So that would be a lot more recognizable than the image that I put here. So maybe if in the next week or so, if you can find something, what I'd like to do is get comments back in the next couple of weeks to the graphic designer. I think they gave us a deadline of mid-July to try to have something back to them with comments so they can edit it more. But that would be great. That's a great suggestion, Andy.
Oh, I'll mention something, actually skipping back to the one that I'm double checking about the train car. If you don't want to wait for me, like while I'm asking the guy that I'm asking, and you are just hanging out there in the rain, on beautiful Block Island. It might be that they got it at the B&M Railroad Archives, which is based in Lowell, and it, I think, has all their archival pictures online. So it might be worth searching there to see, and that might be, and I certainly trust the B&M Archives for knowing their train lore.
Okay. All right. Any other comments on this?
Right.
Yeah, well, there are two things. One, I noticed earlier, I didn't mention in the email I sent out, but if you're going to use the retaining wall, is that a shadow on
I'm assuming.
It looks like it, yeah.
the?
Yeah, it is a shadow on this image, and it's not.
Do you think it looks like water or something, or
Well, I just thought it kind of.
hard to read?
Well, I thought maybe the retaining wall without the shadow might be more
Yeah.
representative. Anyway, no, the final, the wordage underneath and beyond, I think doesn't really do justice to the significance of the quarry, as far as,
And around the country or something.
Well, especially like so much of New York City.
Empire State
know.
Building.
Was the Empire State Building too?
Yeah,
Oh, okay, so
Well, that's
so
what I-
much of New York.
yeah,
Are you sure?
that's sort of.
Oh, well, I didn't know that, but I know I know more of the West Side Highway and all of those
Yeah, that would,
bridges and things.
but I was
But I don't
thinking
know. Yeah.
more in terms of the amount.
Oh.
I know Peter Abadopoli mentioned that in the Rockwell, and I just caught, it was like 40 train loads a day. I mean, it was just this phenomenal number. I have to again, that's something he said very quickly and took me aback, so I wanted to check with him about that, but the number was so huge, I wondered, how is it there's still a Rollstone Hill?
Yeah, right.
Right.
It would have taken the whole thing down.
Yeah.
I've heard that it's a lot lower than it was, certainly because of that. I guess I heard it from Peter at his talk.
But I'd like to find out where his source of information.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Because this is a very brief sign, if we could, I agree, it would be a way of is there a way of saying that in, instead of beyond, in 10 words or less
right.
for a sign like this?
Yeah,
And that's something that if we could maybe wordsmith this into, throughout New England or the East Coast or communities throughout blah, 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 or X number of train loads shipped from Pittsburgh to wherever, some way of expressing this in very briefly and with power, with, like you're saying.
well, yeah, when I get back to the office, I'll try to call Peter. I'll leave him a message asking about this quantity that you heard, exactly what it was, and
Yeah,
whether it was from our archival records.
Yeah.
Because he's read a lot of our records.
he's done a lot of research and.
Huge, yeah.
It struck me, I said, Peter, we should try to get that grant back.
I'm not a good wordsmith, but I'll try to get the info that we're crunching down.
Okay.
Yeah, this would be great. I've always said Peter ought to write a great research document about all the information that he's found and the whole thing about the quarry. That'd be great. All right, thank you. That's so we're looking for additional proper wordage in there to give some more power to that. And perhaps changing the image of something that's more readable and a better photograph. And one of those historic building the retaining walls shows the scale of a person standing near these big things and derricks and the buildings up above it. It's amazing. And it's it's Pittsburgh, and it's not nowhere else in this area looks like that. So great. Our last one is located at the beginning of on Railroad Street, the beginning of the ramp going up. And there's a little kind of sit-down park area there with a bench or whatever, and a little green space and bicycle racks or something like that and this will be an information signage there. And it is the corner of Railroad Street and First Street. And the river kind of runs through here on this old image of 1882 after the patch was well established and the church was here. The rectory wasn't built yet, but certainly the main church building or sanctuary building was here. So this is recognizing the Nashua River and water power and kind of the early beginnings of industrialization of the community. Also talking about immigration and the patch. So, and any changes or thoughts on this?
I'm just looking at the drawing item in the top left corner. Kind of looks like a paddle wheel to me. Like a steamboat paddle wheel. I know they're probably trying to depict a water powered
Right.
generator
It's a
wheel.
good plan.
You know, I think that
That's,
does have
that's
more-
what it looked like to me.
It does
too,
have more
but
buckets or something.
I didn't, yeah. I don't know how hard or easy it is to do.
Yeah.
Maybe it needs a directional scoop or something. That's,
Yeah.
I'll ask them if they have any other images that might. I tried to see if we had any old images of water wheel mills or something that, that we could actually put in an actual image of one. I think they're all gone. We'll go up to the old mill restaurant and say this is a dam or something.
I like the little splashing water on it, coming off of it. So you know it's water.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. And maybe there might be a better graphics, or they could send us a bunch of different images. Maybe we could select one, a different one that may not look like a paddle wheel boat.
It'd almost be a good one if you had two wheels and connected by like a belt image.
Yeah.
Because that's what the wheel was doing, was driving a belt,
Right.
power to something, another wheel somewhere else, you know. And there's some room there, you know,
I think the white space.
there's a lot of white space that
I think they need
could make it.
the design, but still, I think you're absolutely right.
I see
Wow.
the note. I was thinking of your research about the Putnam Mills. Newton Place shows up very nicely here that you talked about in your newsletter, or one of your
Look at it, yeah.
newsletter. Obviously, I colored this in myself with
Right.
digital. The blow up doesn't do it a lot of justice, but from a distance, it looks okay.
Did I tell you that our researcher found basically where the raceway came in underneath the Rollstone Bridge? It's still there. Like the
Wow.
little, so that's the wrong one. I'm always getting them turned around. Yeah. That,
Right over here.
right there. Yeah, that one is still in place. And he found actually the foundation stones of the original 30 by 60 cotton mill and some of the extensions.
Oh, wow.
It's amazing. It's
Yeah.
still out there. It's still there.
It's right over there,
Yeah.
right over.
Yeah,
Right behind the bank building.
Yeah, it was exciting. So we're gonna, Correct.
Okay, so I will see if we can get something on let's see. So the sign number one, obviously getting the library in the right location, and maybe connecting the graphics to the little spots a little bit better. Number two, we're going to check on if the railroad engine was actually made in Fitchburg, all of it, or we knew they made boilers and things. We just want to double check on that. And about the quarry, getting some additional wording on the beyond and showing importance, and maybe changing the image of the stone wall being built, or retaining wall. And changing the graphics of the water wheel on the top here. Okay, thank you.
it's happening. It's really happening.
Might see those. posted,
Okay.
right?
It's 5 o'clock. I don't know if you guys want to keep going or not. Hopefully we can meet again soon and perhaps have a quorum. Or you can keep on going. I'm fine, but
Well, I would just mention, I was coming in, was delayed. I delayed myself, talking to James from the Parks,
Oh,
because I was wondering, well, when's the fountain going to start flowing?
People have been asking.
The Common
Yeah.
And he said next week, they're hoping
Oh,
next week,
good.
because they had to seal it, and then they had to do, get the electrical connections to the lights.
Oh, good.
So he's optimistic,
That's great.
yeah.
Yeah, I know they've been working on it for over a year.
Reclaim it or something, or?
Yeah, it was apparently very jury rigged when the last time the
Right.
water was put in and they wanted to make it more secure and a little better looking to work well. And that's wonderful,
So maybe for the 4th of July,
right? Right?
one can always hope.
Yeah, during the parade. Yes. Okay.
All right.
It'll make you proud.
Keith, did you see your letters?
Yes, and I sent them to other members also.
Okay.
And while you're mentioning that, that is maybe if we jump down to new business in the number 13, we did receive a letter from the Massachusetts Historical Commission, or a copy to us, the commission, relating that there is a application being submitted in Fitchburg for the maybe Andy, if you could read off what it is there. I don't have it right in front of me on the image, but
Somebody was looking to create a historical place at the Fitchburg Paper Company, a historic district.
Oh,
Somebody from Pawtucket, Rhode Island, was talking about Fitchburg Paper Company Historic District in Fitchburg, wanting to put in a nomination for that.
and there are several buildings with the Fitchburg Paper Company, I believe.
Yeah.
that's so that they can get access.
Well, maybe
When if they're developing it into new
into that area, yeah,
business space and stuff. So great, it supports renovation
right.
or
Yeah.
preservation, that's right.
So that may be an application for
Tax credit.
National Register
applications.
nomination, and perhaps that would then allow tax credit financing for perhaps a rehabilitation project somewhere with some of those buildings. So it
Well,
doesn't.
I was hoping they keep that paper mill intact. It's quite a historic building for the city there.
Yeah.
Rivers.
And this would be certainly a way of helping that happen.
Well, and if it would help protect the Fitchburg Paper Company's office center to the Carl Koch building. That seems particularly important. One of the things I don't know how much is being, elaborately cared for now, but the gardening and landscaping around that was won, I think, AIA awards. They definitely won architectural awards for the gardening there. And that's why people used to go all the time and have to take wedding pictures there and stuff at the pond and the little waterfall behind. So I really want that to be saved and cared for, yeah. And I love the building. The building is, I think some things have changed, but there's a lot that's unchanged for that building.
Yeah, there was a larger pond area, I believe, just to the left of the main entry bridge type thing. It goes into there, where the water kind of ran down through there from there's a big waterfall back behind at the back end of the parking.
Yeah. And now it's tiny.
Yeah.
It's smaller now then, or is it just that there were two of them? I think there's a little one.
Yeah. I remember seeing one of your older pictures that it seemed like there was a bigger water feature right beside the building.
Oh, okay.
This is just from my memory, and that might not be it.
You have a good memory for this.
Yeah, and it would be nice if that building were included in this, or if it's of the
Yeah.
buildings, or a combination of all of these things. It would be so as that progresses, if we have any information, I'll certainly share it with the commission and Susan also. The second letter we received was from Freedom's Way, I believe.
Right,
And maybe paraphrasing it is that they helped advertise our Preservation Month activity in May on their website, and was a supporter, helped sponsor our program. And they have a kind of a grant program for helping.
Right.
yeah.
It's
Okay.
weird. I got that same form. Do we both send them in? I'm not sure if it's for exactly the same program or not.
Did you have another program with them?
Well, you sent it in, but they seem to have listed. I'll double check. How do they ID the program here? They say, because they ID, I guess they didn't ID it here. Somewhere they ID it. The thing about this is the deadline date, because it's such a pain in the neck, is June 30th. So for turning in the things, and basically they'll reimburse out-of-pocket expenses. So I don't know that you guys have, whether that works for you. I was going to scour my books to see what I plausibly spent on helping put this on and get reimbursed for those up to the limit.
Was it $350 or something like that? I think.
Yeah, so good. Yeah.
Which, if we got a check as a commission, we'd have to turn it over to the city in that.
Right. Oh, there it is. It says, yeah, limit 1 stipend per partner, 1 stipend per program. So I think we were both getting this for the same program, but
Okay.
I'll turn it in. I'll plan to fill it out and turn it in for the Historical Society side of it, if that's comfortable for all of you.
Go for it.
Okay.
So that's some of the new business. Historic marker, one marker went out for, I believe it's 21 Atlantic Street Avenue. I don't have it right in front of me. Which was a 1883 residential building that was not designed by H.M. Francis, but by Stephen Earle and his partner in Worcester, Massachusetts, which was a parallel architectural firm to Fitchburg's H.M. Francis. Almost exactly parallel. They all did zillions of buildings in their hometown, plus all over New England, including libraries, schools, churches, mainly represented in their local communities, but New England wide also. So that was a night. That was the last one. Haven't received any other marker requests. Number 8, sorry, jumping around here. Number 8 is the next one. Project to document and share Main Street building histories, historic districts, tax credits, and other restoration, reuse incentives. I think, Andy, you had a question on that.
Yeah, I sent you an email kind of right around 1 o'clock or so today on some questions on that one.
Yeah, and I sent you, just before the meeting, I sent a response back to you.
Okay.
This is a kind of a project that it's been a thing that Ellen has been thinking of for a long time. A lot of it from her past experience as working on the city council and also working with community development as a downtown coordinator, similar to the work that community development is doing now with people coming to the city looking to perhaps invest in downtown. Excuse me, need a drink.
Get up and use the restroom. And I'm thinking, oh, I could do for this last thing. So.
Not that kind of drink. We could all use that. Anyhow, as kind of a resource or a database for existing downtown buildings, they would have easily accessible that maybe a real estate agent or somebody at community development would say, oh, address XXX on Main Street or Pritchard Street or something. In Fitchburg, what's that building about? We know it's an old building. Someone wants to restore it or put a business in it or something, particularly focused on downtown area, at least for now. And it would have perhaps quickly retrievable data on when it was built, maybe a quick information that comes off the MACRIS list or from other Fitchburg history. It might have, if there is an old photograph of the building and maybe a new photograph of the building, just a quick history on it. And maybe if it's in a historic district or links to other sources of information. So it could even be a link to a MACRIS list or something like that in it, but something that a community development or sharing it with the real estate community, and it could be posted on our website or community development's website for, or at least at the moment would have information about particularly the downtown area and kind of the reimagining of the reuse of it. So if someone was saying, you know, Fitchburg real estate is pretty affordable compared to other towns and cities. And if I wanted to put in a retail space or a new coffee shop or game room or bar or restaurant or something, and I could invest in downtown, you know, what's the history of the building? Is it in a historic district? Could I use tax credits on it? What are other resources that I could use? And just knowing, being a landlord or a prospective buyer, saying this building was built in 1882. It was built by Richard Dickinson and he was a printmaker or whatever it might be. Having that little bit of history kind of is very intriguing about something instead of looking, well, I don't know anything about this building. It looks run down. It is, you know, it looks like it's not anything. And here's an image of what the old storefronts used to look like on the front of it from a street view or something like that. And you say, wow, look at that. Or here's the history of the building instead of just seeing a building that needs lots of repair. So that's kind of the incentive behind coming up with the database and exactly how it is put together and how it's accessed. You know, it could be on our website, you know, put in the address, you could find it. It's kind of a search piece. Or I suppose it could even be, a printed out sheet for each of the 100 addresses of downtown Fitchburg or something like that. But being in a digital format would be certainly preferred. So, anyhow, this is Ellen thinks that this would be, a nice tool to have, at least for our downtown area, and without having to hire an expert or go somewhere to kind of find out the information. Or kind of a real estate person said, oh, downtown Fitchburg, look at this site, you can find out information about it.
Yeah, okay,
That's a big project.
it is.
Yes.
Go little by little.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
One bite at a time, yeah.
I'd be happy to help on that also. Now that we kind of have some of our other projects done, so. Let's see. Number 9, update on Monument Park repairs. I have no additional information on that. I'll see if I can get a hold of James and see if we can actually see the old molds for the previous work done on the railing fencing. Number 10, update on the demolition delay. I know, Don, you just sent out a update.
Yes, so I don't expect people to take a look at it. I have copies of it. We can talk about it next time when we have a forum. The major, as I mentioned in previous meetings, have been influenced by the Springfield, Massachusetts demolition delay, which takes, in fact, I've incorporated quite a bit of what they say into it. Fitchburg is a historic city. And the notion that somehow, in talking with previous building commissioners, it was the issue of, well, what is a historic building? How do you determine what a historic building is? Comes up, and then it kind of gets stalled there. One commissioner says, well, I can decide. And the other commissioner says, well, I can't decide. And then they leave, and somebody new comes in. And I was thinking, let's just reverse it. Let's call it all historic, because it's a historic city. Let's call all the buildings that are here, all the structures, historic. And when you want to demolish something, just fill out a request for a waiver that this does not qualify as a historic building. And that resolves the problem right there, because we don't have to prove that something is a historic building, go to the Macris list, 50 years and all. This is part of the history of Fitchburg as it is now. Therefore, it's a question of, is this a building that we want to continue to be part of that? We don't know if a building necessarily is going to be historic before the 50 years is up, because things happen. So the idea would be that to preserve the historic value of Fitchburg, and we decide not whether a building is worth preserving, but whether a building is not risk preserving. Pretty statement, that's it. Anyway, we can't decide that here now, but that's
Good.
the direction.
It's a good point. So your revisions, basically stating that and kind of stating a process, that the building commissioner or the city would go through to when there is a demolition permit application, it would be reviewed by the historical commission and a decision made on the permit. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
and as we found out, there are relatively few requests to demolish an entire building. You know, usually it's to modify it in some way. And so that's not something outside of what I think we could handle. And, but
I see.
down by Crystal Cleaners, for example, there were a bunch of old shacks. And the previous mayor just took them out. Fine. I mean, there's no need for any further, but the idea is that the Johnsonian, when I ask people, why was the Johnsonian torn down? I get different answers.
Right.
So let's put it on the public record.
Mhm.
But a decision was made by someone somewhere at some point to tear it down. That's as far as I can get.
Exactly. All right. So everyone could take a look at the proposed update on this. Thanks, Don, for the extra effort in this, as always. Any other discussion on this on the moment, and we can take it up in more detail when we take a look at it? All right, number 11, update on appreciation, preservation, of historic stone walls and stone structures.
Oh,
One thing-
no update.
Okay, one thing we're making a sign that talks about the quarry, and that's some sort of stone structure. So that's a little headway on that. Some public education on more public education on this, and kind of a public awareness, both with city officials and the public in general. And let's keep this on the agenda for continual work. Number 12, membership vacancies. And we still have 2 open vacancies.
Yeah, I've been in contact with Chris Patenzi, and he's out of town now. Virginia's undergoing further legal training. So that's on hold. But I noticed that the website, when I looked at it, our website for the historical commission, it still has Sam and Megan as commission members. So that could be updated.
Okay. When I send in the resource list, I'll mention that to for the website update also. Thank you. One piece of trying to get members, and we do have our meetings, or have been having our meetings at 3 o'clock. Do And Charles has a hard time making those times, although he kind of works at all different hours also. But making it perhaps more available for people that are working during the daytime to be member of the commission, like lawyers or real estate people, et cetera. If we moved our meeting time to 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock, I'm wondering if I think we should be thinking about that, or my thought anyhow, and maybe we could bring it up at the next meeting also of maybe moving it to a little bit later so someone that is working kind of regular business hours might be able to find it easier to attend our meetings.
And it's not just hypothetical, because I did in fact talk with someone who said she was very interested in becoming a member of the commission, but she couldn't make 3 o'clock meetings. She's at work.
Yeah.
But she could make like 6 o'clock meetings. So, we want to change our time just for this one possible case. I don't know. I mean, it's.
So we can bring that up again in our July meeting, but thinking of a time, either 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock, and generally our meetings are running 2 or 2.5 hours. So 6 till 8 or 8:30, or 5 till 7 or 7:30 would be possible times. I certainly could change the day also if Thursdays don't work, but Thursdays seem.
We used to meet at 5. Was it 5 or 6 that we used to meet?
Yeah, I think it was 5. Might have been 6 o'clock. And we moved it earlier for reasons I can't remember at the moment. So maybe we can bring that up for a vote when we have a quorum. So, and a little bit more discussion on it. Any other new business? All right. Well, our next scheduled meeting is for Thursday, July 25th at 3 p.m. We have talked about today as perhaps scheduling an earlier meeting in July to perhaps make a vote about the Massachusetts seal that's found on the seal flag, and we'll do some coordination. So I can do a little investigation and get back to everybody by email, and if we can get any coordination with the Ethics Commission or Civil Rights Commission, I believe one of those names.
Human rights, yeah.
Human rights.
Can I ask, and I just thought of some new business. May I mention that? I was just telling Liz Murphy about this too. So we've put a download of the Preservation Month program on our YouTube page. And I've seen that as of a few days ago, it's gotten 100 views already, if I remember correctly. So that's really nice. Yeah. A lot of people were interested in when we shared it on our Facebook group. And so we'll keep, we keep doing that as a way to get YouTube views. So, but I was real pleased to see how many views already.
That's amazing. That's amazing. That's a great idea for you to do that. Very good. You guys have a great team. That's good. I think we need to do a lot more public outreach like that, and that was worked well. Okay, so I will not. This is an informational meeting only, so I don't think we have any other business unless Andy or Don.
Hi,
No new business.
nice to meet you. Thank you all.